It was 2014. I went on a summer camp trip with students. We were all around the ages of 13 to 15, and we went to the Devil's Lake State Park in Wisconsin. I was around 13 at the time, going from 6th grade to 7th grade. The summer camp was a school-funded event lasting 8 weeks for students to experience the outdoors. Because it was summer school, luckily no education curriculum was involved. It was a mid-July Tuesday, and the area that we stayed around the lake was the north shore of Devil's Lake. It is usually the most crowded place during the summer, but on that Tuesday, there was barely anyone besides the summer camp students, staff, and some volunteer lifeguards and rangers. We got there at around 9 a.m. and planned to stay until 5:30 before going home, as it was the summer and the sun doesn't go down until 8 p.m. Our camp counselors decided to make the best use of the camp by allowing us students to decide what kind of events we would choose throughout the day. Knowing myself, I always liked to just play in the lake as I cannot swim, but I love to catch small minnows that are always by the shore of the lake or create sand castles. Due to my hobbies, I convinced my friends Luke and Sean to stay by the lake and hang out with me for a while instead of going on a hike. Luke and Sean liked the idea, but they told me that later in the day they were going hiking with the summer counselor. I agreed with them that I would join them when that happens. Later in the day, when it was 4:30 p.m. and they gave the last call to go hiking, my two friends told me to follow them and go hiking like I had promised. I was selfish, thinking that going hiking was boring and a waste of time, and I told them that I would stay by the lake and they should as well. This led to an argument between us, and in the end, Sean and Luke decided to leave me alone by the lake and go on hiking. After they left, I spent time together alone by the lake. I was mostly trying to catch dragonflies and look for other animals. Around this time, a few of my peers were swimming and playing by the lake. There were only 1 or 2 lifeguards left, as the rest had already gone home. During this time, I thought to myself that I would catch and see more dragonflies and animals if I went to the edges of the shore. The edges of the shore were mostly made from stones rather than sand. As I proceeded to the edge of the shore, I noticed that the water began to get deeper. I was a scaredy cat and hated the idea of drowning and would usually stay around 2 to 3 feet of water. Plus, I was a short kid, standing only around 4 feet 8 inches at the time. As I got closer to the edge of the shore, I heard my friends Sean and Luke calling my name from the far end of the shore edge. Thinking that they wanted me to go over there, I thought to myself that I would go deeper into the water around 4 feet of water, which was 30 feet away from the shore, and then proceed to climb on the stones and run towards them. As I decided to walk deeper into the water, they kept a repetition of calling my name again and again in a monotone voice. I was getting annoyed as it sounded like they wanted to just tick me off, so I started walking faster so I could yell at them for playing a joke on me. As I got close to the edge of the shore, I started having an eerie sensation that something that was supposed to not be there was close by. The feeling gave me shivers down my spine. I began to stop going after them as it felt like something bad was going to happen. I started to walk back a couple of feet so I could be near the shore and then get onto dry land to reach them. After walking back a few feet, something grabbed my ankles. It felt like a hand grabbing my ankles. With that thought in my mind, the hand pulled me by the ankles and dragged my entire body into the water. As my body was fully submerged into the water, I started feeling like I was getting dragged across the water, like a fish getting pulled by a fishing pole. I began to kick the hand that was holding onto me and started thrashing my hands and arm all over the place. I tried to open my eyes to see what was holding onto me, but I could not see anything as the lake water was green and dark. In my mind, I called out that if there was anyone, please save me. As I was getting further and further into the lake, I could feel my life fading out of me. At this point, I knew that I could pass out at any moment, but then a hand reached into the water and grabbed my arm. With a great amount of force, the hand on my arm started pulling me to the surface. I was relieved, but I could still feel like there was tension between the hand that was grabbing my arm and the hand that was grabbing my ankle. In the final effort, and with all the energy that I had left, I started kicking the hand that was holding onto my ankle again. With it, the hand finally let go of my ankle and I was able to reach the surface of the water. As I made it out of there, I was coughing out water, gasping for air, and crying all at once. I did not notice that my arms were resting on a life buoy and the lifeguard was taking me back to shore. A few minutes after I got back to the shore and caught my breath, the lifeguard was mad at me and started to yell, "Why were you swimming away from me?" I was puzzled by this question and told him that I could not swim and was panicking the whole time. He then proceeded to tell me that from his point of view, he saw me panicking around the 4 feet water mark, so he started to run and swam to get to me. As soon as he started to get closer, he noticed that I was swimming away from him. The lifeguard started swimming faster and faster after me while I was being dragged out of the shore swimming boundary, which was around the 10 feet water mark. As soon as he reached that water mark, he noticed that I had stopped swimming and panicking entirely, so he decided to dive down and reach to me. When he got my arms and tried to pull me up, it felt like I was trying to pull him down as well. As a response to the situation, he full force yanked me up to the surface and carried me onto the shore. In the aftermath, I was freaked out and told him that I was walking towards my friend and pointed in the direction that I saw them. But strangely, they were not there. Puzzled, I began telling him that I felt something grabbing my ankles, and we both proceeded to look at my ankle. On my ankle, we saw a hand mark surrounding my shivering, flushed pink skin. I looked at him and noticed his whole face going from anger and confusion to pale white. As soon as he noticed that I saw his fear, he escorted me to my peers and my summer counselor and told me not to worry about anything. After 5:20 p.m., both Sean and Luke came back from hiking. I started to ask them if they were waving at me at the end of the shore. They told me that they were not even on that side of the shore of the lake, as they were hiking up the mountain trail that was away from the lake. I was shocked and scared, as if it weren't for them, who could it have been? When I got home, I told my parents about my ordeal, and they called my grandma to come and do a small jingle bell to see what happened. From what my grandma told my parents, the spirit of a drowned person wanted to go to the afterlife, but needed someone to take his place at the lake. The spirit saw me and used a hallucination spell to lure me to the area where the spirit had died. But when I did not take its bait, it got angry and grabbed me. My grandma then proceeded to put a Hmong yarn talisman on the ankle where the spirit grabbed me and told me to not go to Devil's Lake for 5 years and to never cut off the talisman unless I was permitted to do so. Up to this day, I have never gone to Devil's Lake State Park ever again. Thank you to the viewer who sent me this story. I have also gone to Devil's Lake State Park, and I didn't think it was this scary, but I'm never going there ever again. This was an old story back from the early 90s. A young man had gotten home from work one night and was absolutely exhausted. He called his girlfriend, who lived an hour away in a different city. She recommended that he go see her and stay at her place since it was Friday, the end of the week anyway, so they could spend more time together during the weekend. He politely rejected her offer at first by letting her know that he is very sleepy and would be at her place first thing in the morning, but later gave in to the girlfriend's words. 1 hour and a half away, he arrived at his destination. The girlfriend opened the door for him and hugged him. "You are so cold. Is it the temperature outside?" she asked. He did look a little pale, but was calm, as if he didn't notice the weather at all. "You won't believe what I saw on the way here," he told her. "There was a terrible accident on the highway, and the traffic was packed. When I pulled up closer to the scene, the car looked just like mine," he continued. "And the body in the bag? Its hand was sticking out from it." The man paused for a second, as if he was thinking and confused at this moment. She looked at him and touched his face. "My goodness, you're as cold as ice," she said to him, interrupting his story. "I'll be right back. I'm going to get you some hot tea." As she got up to leave, he stopped her in her tracks by saying, "The watch on his wrist, it also looked like mine." She went into the kitchen and the house phone rang and she picked it up. It was the boyfriend's mom on the other line. "I'm sorry, I have to tell you this," was the first thing the mom said. The girlfriend was clueless. "What are you talking about? Tell me what?" She wondered why her boyfriend's mom would call her instead of her son. Slowly trying to comfort herself and calm down from crying so hard so she could tell the girlfriend what was going on, she said, "My son was just in a car wreck and he didn't make it." The girlfriend thought for a little bit and replied, "No, your son is here with me right now." Trying to ease the mother, she said, "If you like, you can talk to him." The girlfriend walked into the room and the man was nowhere to be found. She checked the bathroom, her room, and finally outside. His car was nowhere to be seen when she was suddenly hit with a rotten stench that filled the air outside and inside her entire house. At the funeral, when everyone else was crying for him, it was a normal corpse laying there. When the girlfriend cried and reminisced their love, tears started falling down from his eyes and did not stop all the way until they buried him. Good thing there's FaceTime nowadays, but that's a pretty sad story. Interested in sharing your stories? Submit them to HmongChronicles@gmail.com or in the description below. Here is the next story. Thank you. One time, I slept over at my cousin's house, and we all slept in the living room. At around 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning, while everyone, including me, was asleep, I was woken up by something, and I could feel its presence in the room with us. It felt like it was wandering around and observing us closely while we were sleeping. When I came to and actually opened my eyes, I started to get the chills because I noticed the lights were out and my cousins were all asleep. I started to wonder who the heck was still wandering around the night and not asleep yet. I decided to not make any noises or any movement because I could still feel its presence in the room with us. Instead, I just rolled my eyes around, looking a few times. I didn't see anything, so I finally gasped and thought, okay, there's nothing. Then, as I tried to shift my body and my head to the right side, I saw him. The shadowy figure standing against a white wall. He stood there, very still, looking back at me. The two of us locked our stares at one another for a good 4 to 5 seconds. My heart started beating faster and faster, and at the same time I thought to myself, oh, that's what woke me up. The figure then turned and walked down into the basement. Every fiber in my body wanted to start screaming and wake everybody up, but I just conjured up the nerve to just quickly pull up the blanket over my head and not make a single sound. Good thing was that I was sleeping in the middle between my cousins, otherwise there would have been no way for me to go back to sleep had I been sleeping on the edge. I would have been too afraid of the thing that could have came back after a little while. Who knows, they probably did after I had gone to sleep. The next morning, I told my cousins about it, and they sort of laughed and weren't all that surprised. They said that the thing I saw last night was what was probably jumping on top of their sister in our room. She had been having nightmares for a while now, and of somebody getting on top of her and paralyzing her. So far, I've only had encounters with ghosts and spirits in such ways. Never have I seen one eye to eye where I could actually see every pore on their skin and every teeth that they had. I don't think that'll ever happen to me again because they're more spirits and shadowy figures. I don't think we'll ever see them standing there like another human being in full details. It's always a glimpse or an unclear image, leaving us to speculate. My grandpa told me of a spooky event that he witnessed when he was a little kid back in Laos. One night, he saw a strange large creature crawling through one of their roof openings. Traditional Hmong houses have two openings on opposite ends of the roof that forms triangular shapes. He told us that the creature looked like a monkey, but with a human face on it. My grandpa saw that it was eating their corn that they had put up in the attic. When this thing realized that my grandpa was watching him, it stared right back and smiled, revealing its fangs. It silently crawled back out the way it came from. He then told his dad what he saw, and they both went up to investigate. There were bite marks on some of the corn and squashes. These weren't the regular rat or squirrel bite marks. It looked like it was done by a much larger animal. This event occurred for a couple more nights, and for some reason, only the kids could see it. So one day, the grown-ups decided to have their rifles loaded, and when the kids would see something in the attic, they would point it out and the grown-up would shoot at it. Sure enough, that night, my grandpa saw the thing crawling inside and pointed at it. The grown-ups all fired their rifles and they heard a loud scream. When they went to investigate, it was already dead. It looked like a large mongoose, but it's nothing that they have ever seen before. My grandpa also said that it didn't look like the creature that he saw. The mongoose-looking creature doesn't have a human face, and its fangs were small. Well, the next day, they heard that an old man living in the other village was accidentally shot twice. One of my grandpa's relatives came out and saw that this old man claimed to have been shot while out in the wood last night. The people concluded that he was probably a dark shaman using black magic and was somehow coming to other villages to feed and do his tricks. Out of respect for that old man's relatives, they decided not to tell the story to anyone else. In a rural Hmong village, people had been complaining that their rice and meat had been decreasing rapidly from their homes all of a sudden, almost like someone or something kept on stealing it and eating without them seeing it. One afternoon, a young, beautiful Hmong girl from that very village was all by herself in her bedroom and was putting on some makeup. She was holding up a little mirror in front of her face as she was applying her makeup. As she was moving the mirror around, it revealed a strange-looking creature staring at her. The girl turned around quickly and started to scream for help, and immediately all of her family members rushed in to see this ugly-looking, never-before-seen creature now running from corner to corner, trying to escape the situation. The mom and dad knew exactly what it was and said to each and every one of the kids to keep their eyes on it and to not look away or blink at all. If they were to blink, or if any of them were to take their eyes off of it, it could vanish and disappear, and with that, they can't kill it or capture it. The whole family kept their eyes on that creature and blocked the exit while the dad went to get the dogs from outside. Soon enough, the dad brought in 3 of his best hunting dogs into the little room of the house, and they killed the creature. The whole village came to see the body of whatever it was, and everyone who saw it said that it could have been the thing that was eating all their food. Sure enough, after the incident, everything went back to normal.